For today's project, we are going to be electrical engineers and create our own electric motor. Our electromagnetic motor uses electricity to create its own magnetic field, causing our motor to spin.
Now that we know what we're building, let's make sure that we have all of our materials ready. Inside your project bag, you should have 1 AA battery, 2 safety pins, about 42 inches or 3.5 feet of 26 AWG enameled wire, 1 coin magnet, a piece of sandpaper that is 220 grit, and outside of your project bag, you will also want some tape. Once you have all of your materials ready, we can start building our project.
To start the project, let's first create an electromagnet. First, we are going to need our enameled wire and our battery. Your enameled wire is going to be very long, so ensure that you work with small sections of it at a time, and remind your students to do the same. Taking a couple inches of our enameled wire, begin wrapping the enameled wire around the battery pack. Make sure to leave a few inches of the end. And make sure you begin wrapping close to one end of your battery and not through the whole length of it. You also want to make sure that the coil is thick and centralized on one end. Once you are done wrapping your enameled wire, go ahead and pull it out of the battery. And you should have something like this. Next, with the wire left over on each end, loop one end through the center of the coil 2 times. This is to ensure that our coil will not come loose when using the project. When you are finished, do the same with the other end of our coil. Next, take your sandpaper and once again, locate where each end of your enameled wire is. Using your sandpaper, gently sand off the enamel of each end of the wire. This is the most important step, and it may take some time to be able to see the enamel removed. One way to check that you are done is to compare the end of your sanding to any part that hasn't been sanded yet. You should notice that the end should look more silver and less shiny. Once you have sanded the enamel off both ends of your coil, you can move it to the side for now. We are now going to need our safety pins and the tape or electrical tape for the next step. Take one safety pin and attach the end that opens and closes and tape it directly to one end of our battery. Ensure that the safety pin is closed before taping it onto the battery and that it looks upside down. Do the same with the other safety pin on the other end of our battery. Again, make sure that your safety pin is closed and that it looks upside down. Now also make sure that it is directly parallel with the other paper clip or safety pin. Next, we are going to take our magnet and attach it to the bottom of the battery in between the two pins. At this point, your motor will be ready to test. Now that we have all of our pieces finished, we can begin testing our electric motor. Take your coil that we created and thread it through both holes of our safety pins. Once you let go, your motor should start spinning. If the coil is not spinning, try giving it a little push. There. Additionally, make sure that the two ends of your wire that are touching the safety pins are sanded down enough. If your coil keeps slipping out of the safety pins, you might need to unwrap a loop from the coil to make the ends longer. Finally, make sure to not keep the coil spinning too long, as the battery will get warmer over time. One last thing to note is also to be very careful when touching the coiled enamel wire, as it may get very hot. Now that we are finished testing, let's talk about how it works. Our electric motor works because we are creating our own mini electromagnet with the coil and the energy with our coil and the energy coming from our battery. The electricity moving through our coil creates its own magnetic field. The interaction between the coil electromagnet and the coin magnet creates torque, causing our coil to spin. With this, we can see how the electrical energy created from our battery turns into moving energy with our coil. Now, some questions your students can think about are, what can we use our electric motor for? How can we use electromagnets in the real world? How can we use the energy created from our electric motor in other projects? And how could you make the motor spin more powerful?